everyone. Welcome to this week's Fireside Creators. I am your host, Reverend Dr. Sherry Pallas. Tonight, I am chatting with Matti Jo Cowsert about her project, God, Sex, and Rich People. Always a scandalous topic. I love it. Please remember to keep all comments and questions related to the show topic and that this is a safe space. Thank you for joining us. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe. But thank you for welcoming us into your homes and joining the conversation. I appreciate you all. Okay, let's meet our guest and get some laughs on and become more loving. There we go. Matti Jo is an actor, author, and shameless oversharer. She created God, Sex, and Rich People, the book, blog, and series, which is in development. From purity rings to sex with pop stars, Matti Jo shares the sometimes painful, sometimes hilarious realities of reconstructing spirituality and sexuality in the city that never sleeps and never stops sleeping around. I just love this. See why she's on the show? Hi, Matti. How are you?
Hi, I'm so well. How are you?
Let me get you on this damn program. There you are. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so glad that we could finally do this show. I know you and I were
Yes.
talking back and forth, and you were busy just buzzing around the world.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yes.
I think we had to put it off a few times, but I'm glad we're here.
Yes, better late than never. So you have
Yes.
been on an exciting journey that not only started with the book, but started before the book. And I can't wait to hear all of these scandalous stories. I can't wait. So how did all this start? Let's start there.
Yeah. So I let's take it all the way back to Branson, right? We go from the Bible Belt to the Big Apple. So I was born and raised as a pastor's kid, youngest of four kids. My dad was a General Baptist pastor, which is just a denomination of the Baptists. And so we grew up like very conservative. And then we moved into a non-denominational church when I was in junior high. So we really thought, wow, this is progressive. Like there's a rock climbing wall in the sanctuary. We don't sing hymns, like it was very sort of Hillsong United vibes, right?
Okay.
So I really grew up thinking like I wasn't like other Christians, like I was not dogmatic. I was not legalistic, right? Because they're very good at like manipulating the veneer of it all and the delivery of it all. I moved to New York to become an actor in my early 20s instead of becoming a wife like I was supposed to.
Right.
And my joke is my entire identity imploded thanks to Tinder and my Jewish roommate. So all of my, all of my secular world experiences were forcing me to question my faith and reinvent my sexuality, all while living with and working for the 1%. So rich people were this very unexpected container for my identity crisis.
Interesting.
So naturally, I decided to write about it on the internet. And in 2015, when marriage equality passed, I released my first blog entitled God and the Gays, about how the queer community was a catalyst for me questioning everything I'd been taught about this Jesus guy. And then it just kind of went from there. I am shocked looking back at my writing because I'm now re-releasing like new and improved versions of those blog posts onto Substack. And I'm like, I don't know why people read this. My writing has gotten a lot better, I swear.
I know that feeling.
It resonated with people at a time, before deconstruction was a hashtag viewed by billions, before evangelical was a category, before we even had terms like purity culture. I use terms like recovering evangelical, right? That's in the title of my book, Dismantling, Rebuilding. I called it Jesus culture. So it was just a very different time. And I think people were just then starting to like reconcile a lot of this, just beginning the questioning process. So I was just a little bit ahead of the fold by talking about it publicly and being in a setting like New York where I sort of had geographical freedom. I wasn't sort of fearful of losing my entire community if I spoke out about these things
Right.
because I was in a different world, right? So that was the beginning, and then it just sort of took off from there. I hired a career coach in 2018, and she really helped me learn how to like hone my storytelling skills. I kept writing the blogs, and then 2020 hit, and I began the process of the publishing process of getting the book. Going, which is a whole long story. But then fast forward to 2024, September of 2024, it's out. The book is out. And then I also, in between 2020 and 2024, I also wrote, directed, and executive produced the proof of concept for the TV series. So you can watch that on YouTube. It actually has like, I am shocked. We released it publicly in September along with the book, and it's got over 1 million views at this
I
point.
saw that.
Yeah,
Congrats.
thank you. My also my other joke is it's probably just a bunch of like perverts in Bangladesh, but like I don't care.
I have half of Africa and India on my friends list, so I get it.
I'm like, it's kind of salacious, and this might be like, it might just be because there's sex, but whatever. So anyways, yeah, and then also in development, I was asked, I was invited to participate in a pitch competition at Yale last year, which has led to being in an artistic incubator at MIT. And
Wow.
so we're developing a one woman show based on God, Sex, and Rich People. So it's sort of this, I call it a multimedia brand about the evangelical sex experience. So this is like, I don't want it to like, yes, God, Sex, and Rich People is sort of like the maiden voyage, but I
Right.
want this to be more than that. Like a friend of mine is working on a pilot right now for a show called Free Bretney, and it's about a closeted gay pastor, Brett,
Mm.
and it's very funny. And so like I want to be able to take on and produce evangelical content. So that's sort of the big vision.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's back up a little bit.
Okay.
How is your relationship with your parents and your siblings at this point?
It's so funny. That is always everyone's like main question. Yeah, so it's actually very good. I am so
Yay.
lucky. This is a curveball that a lot of people do not expect. They expect me to be like, "Oh
Right.
my God, my parents disowned me." You know, I have a blog post called "The Fourth Commandment" that talks about my relationship with my parents. And you know, whenever yeah, people inquire about this, I'm like, "Listen, in my home, we learned a God of love and compassion. We
Nice.
learned to think critically. We learned to
Wow.
ask questions. Curiosity was a big value in my home. So if my parents are pissed about my deconstruction, I'm just like, you guys are the reason this happened. This is what you taught me to do, you know? And also I think, you know, the culmination of everything that went on with the 2016 election, and my father got sort of unjustifiably pushed out of our church that we were part of for like 15 plus years.
Oh, wow.
um, I think all of that culminated to really make my father wake up to what was really going on in church politics and what's really going on in the church, and that actually not everyone who is a Christian, calls themselves a Christian, shares values with him, right?
Right.
And so and then my mom has always sort of been, I always joke like my dad is the forever optimist and he takes everyone at face value because he's face value. My mom's like the introvert on the sidelines calling everyone's bullshit. So my mom never played the role of like a traditional pastor's wife. That was this story is in the book in more detail, but she's just very introverted and not interested in the pageantry of it all. So she made that deal with my dad early on. Like, I'm not going to do free labor. I have a job already. You know, I'll do what I can, but it's not, you're not going to like put this on me. And if the church ever tries to cross that boundary, it's up to you to tell them that no, this is a boundary of ours. We've got our own family to worry about, you know? So she was always sort of skeptical of church people anyway. So then when all of the Donald Trump stuff started happening and the Christian nationalist movement was really becoming far more public, it was just a good chance for them to bow out. So I think they go to like, they haven't been going to church consistently for a while, but now they're finally going to like a progressive Methodist church. So
You
I
know,
did get lucky in that.
You did. And there's so many of past shows that I have done are just coming flooding through where the pastor's wife has taken the stance of your mom and others who
Mhm.
didn't and were completely burned out and abused. The fact
Mhm.
that you originated in a conservative Baptist environment and then bloomed like this,
Mhm.
and your family going along with it is not only beautiful, but also very rare.
Super rare, and we get asked about it, like, I think when you initially reached out to me, I was on my book tour, and
Mhm.
my dad was at all of my stops,
Oh,
and so
fantastic.
every single stop, the first question people would have is, "What do your parents think of this?" And I'd be like, "Well, dad's in the audience. Would you like to share with them, dad?"
Wow.
And so he's super supportive. And I think they're like, my parents are a really good resource for people whose parents aren't accepting.
Right.
It like gives them, I think it, for all of the ways that unapproving parents sort of gaslight their kids who have
Mhm.
deconstructed, seeing a model of parents who grew with their kids gives adult kids a chance to go, oh, actually I am right, their response is incorrect.
Right.
Like their parents response is incorrect. And there is a world where adult people can grow and expand their ideas about these things like faith and religion and sex even, so
Right.
yeah, if
Well,
that
and
makes sense.
I had a couple months ago, creator on the show, and she goes by the Divorced Virgin,
Hmm.
and I just thought it was a coin
I
term,
know
but
her.
then
I think she follows me.
does
Yeah,
she?
I
Oh,
think I
she's
know her. Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, yeah,
She's
yeah.
awesome. She's in my follow-up course. She's just awesome.
Yes.
But I didn't realize that it was literal. Like she had never had sex with her husband
Hmm.
because of the shame from the church, because of the sin and all of that. Did you, I mean, it sounds like your parents are pretty progressive. Did you, in your sexuality, have to overcome all of that shame that is put on us by religion so often?
Oh, yes, 100%. And that's so funny. That's sort of one of the inspired by conversations with this woman. Actually, one of the sort of storylines that I'm trying to wrestle with the TV show is the catalyst for the character moving to New York. And one of the ideas I have is that she was actually married for 5 years to a pastor and they never had sex. But then
Oh, wow.
she moves to New York a married virgin, or a divorced virgin. That's like one of the storylines I'm throwing around. I haven't decided which direction I'm gonna go yet. But yeah, oh my gosh. Like I don't think you made it out of, 90s millennium evangelicalism unscathed when it came to your sexuality, particularly as a woman, right?
Right.
So that's a huge part of the story, is me unraveling all of these things that I never even questioned as truth, but then I just moved to New York where, um, just by nature of not getting married by the time I was 25 was going to force me
Right.
to like question, how long do I want to do this like no sex thing, cuz
Yeah.
I truly never even considered a world where I would make it past 22 years old unmarried. It had not ever
Mm.
crossed my mind. I was like, no, this is just what you do. This is what will
Right.
happen. And I had a very serious boyfriend in college, so I just assumed we would get married, and then when we didn't, that was really the crux. That was when I was like, shit, now I have to reevaluate everything.
Yeah.
Because I was planning my whole life really about, getting dick down in holy matrimony. And now I don't have that option. I am moving to New York, and I probably won't get married for a very long time because I'm pursuing I moved to do musical theater. So that's what I was originally doing. So I was on tour all the time. Like it wasn't a time for me to be settling down, right?
Right.
Let alone I didn't even know who I was. So how was I going to choose a husband? But
Exactly.
that's not talked about in the church, right? It's just like, oh, you both love Jesus, that's the only compatibility you need. And so yeah, I had so much to unravel. And then, and this isn't in the book, but I talk about it a lot in my blog. Then I was, sorry to drop this bomb, but I was sexually assaulted in 2016, like a couple of days after Donald Trump was elected. And then
Mm.
that catalyzed a whole other chapter of my healing because I got into sexual trauma therapy. And there is where I really learned the minutia of all of the ways purity culture narratives were
Right.
still like, and at that point I was 26. So I'd been in New York for like 4 years at that point, and I thought I'd like done the work and I deconstructed
Right.
it all. And then I was like, I guess not. And so, yeah, it has been a long journey and there's still stuff that comes up, but luckily I now have the tools to like navigate through those things, and I'm not just sort of like flapping in the dark hoping, something will stick or whatever.
Well, we all are. We still are. You
Yeah.
just haven't realized it yet. You'll realize
Yeah.
it in 10 years. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I had to republish my book and add a trigger warning because it opens up with, I didn't realize I was being raped. You have these because I was supposed to be picked. The
Right.
man picked me, and I was supposed to just surrender to everything.
Mhm.
And if I couldn't physically or I didn't want to, that didn't matter.
Mhm.
And it was 20 years before I realized,
Yeah.
holy crap, that's rape. But when it's
Mhm.
ordained by God and in the Bible to do so, or it's twisted and all of these things, the abuse doesn't stop because it's
Right.
not only is the physical abuse, the emotional abuse attached to that, it's also the mental gymnastics we must do as women to justify that type of stuff. And
Yes.
excuse it all, it's
Oh,
well,
totally.
that's just what it's supposed to be.
And then somehow like summit the shame that would come from leaving a marriage.
Right,
Right? Like, I
right.
I am so I say this all the time. I've done a series of, interviews for research for my TV show for women who have, like, gotten evangelical divorce is what I call it, and I am in awe of you all because I'm like, because I didn't get married, right? I left it before I
Yeah.
got into a marriage, and that has allowed me, though I had my own version of difficulty, I cannot imagine being in that world and married and knowing in like deep in your intuition and your gut, this is not how it's supposed to be. This is not, but then just being like constantly gaslit and pressured and shamed into staying. And then even once you leave, you've still got the people who are murmuring, murmuring, murmuring all the judgment, right? And then obviously if you're like, well, I don't really care what those people think. Eventually you get to that point. But man, the road to get there, that is brutal. And so I am just in awe of the courage it takes to leave, to first notice it, name it, address it, and then leave. That's
Yeah, but I
incredible.
I I think that a lot of that, I mean, I ended up leaving him because he got hooked on methamphetamines.
Oh, well, that'll
It
do it.
Yeah, and with the baby running around, it just wasn't gonna work.
Mm,
But
mhm,
in our evangelical, like, with my mom, I got pregnant, and so I was
mhm,
technically forced into getting married.
mhm,
But the moment that I got married and my son was no longer a bastard, according to the evangelicalism, because it's buffet beliefs, I could get
mhm.
divorced.
Right.
So as long as I had that, and then he went on to get married 2 more times, had multiple other children, and as he was dying, I'm having this, rational conversation with him going, "How does this make sense to you?" And he's like, "How do you
Yeah.
even know this stuff?" And
Mhm.
in my book, I say, because I've read more than one book. But
Yeah.
had I not been burned by my faith or my knowledge or being a woman in the faith, I would never have looked beyond that.
Mhm.
So, I
Mhm.
think that a lot of evangelicals end up deconstructing, reevaluating their faith, all of those things because of some type of trauma, not necessarily out of the blue. And the trauma continues to occur when they stay married, and the partner
Yeah.
does not merge with them. I mean, some of my
Yeah.
dearest friends and people who I look up to migrated with each other. They grew together, and left the church together. Some of them are no
Mhm.
longer even married because of that, but they're both so
Mhm.
healthy and
Mhm.
happy now, that they
Mhm.
didn't need that law and everything involved. So there's a lot
Yeah.
of layers in it to
Yeah.
just keep peeling apart.
Yeah, and I think for me, I think once you're othered by the
Right.
evangelical church, it's right? It's like they're all afraid of empathy right now, and it's like, yeah, because it's a hell of a drug, right? Like, that's
Right.
what they've been saying, because the second you're like, I say this in my book, once I was one of them, right? The ones who were
Mhm.
questioning, the one who were asking the validity of, are these like LGBTQ friends actually going to hell, right? Like,
Right.
am I going to hell? Am I worthless if I have sex before marriage? Like, does God really care about these things? Once I became the one questioning those things, that's when I realized, oh, this only fits a very specific subculture. And you have to
Right.
work really hard and be very rigid to fall into it. Right. And then it just unraveled from there once I was sort of a target, I guess.
Yeah.
But yes, to your point, I talk about, I read so many books. I call it my scriptural skepticism spiral. I was
Yeah.
reading anything that could answer my questions. I took it very seriously. You know, you don't come from taking the Bible as seriously as you do as an evangelical. I mean, I was reading the Bible every single day. I was Bible based, you know,
Oh,
like
yeah.
I truly believed that I knew everything in the Bible and I knew how to live it out in my life. Amen. And so, okay, then I have to really answer these
Right.
questions from the Bible, right? And so it's so annoying to me and so condescending when still religious evangelical people are like, "Oh, well, she just wanted to have sex without feeling guilty." It's like, "Okay, well, first of all, yes, doesn't everyone? But also, no, it was so much effort and it was difficult and it was a lot of grief, you know? And to just dismiss it like, oh, it was such a flippant process for me. No, it was not a flippant process at all. It was
Yeah,
arduous.
but isn't that the language of the abusers, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we have a White House right now that is dismissing attack plans as no big deal. You know, when they have no argument,
Yeah.
I was labeled a demon today. And I have been laughing my ass off all day because I was just
Hmm.
smashing the patriarchy left and right.
Hmm.
And it just brought me so much joy to see them get so flustered.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I should have shut up, but and I should have, you know, women aren't supposed to be speaking, and all of these things that
Hmm.
dismiss our path, so they don't have to deal with it, so they don't have to
Yeah.
answer.
Yes.
And I kept giving, you know, he said, "You don't know anything about the Bible," so I just started quoting the Bible.
Yep.
My degree is in comparative religion. I
Yeah.
still, you know, there's so much. I used to say that too. I know everything about the Bible, and then I realized that there's so much I don't,
Yes.
and never will, because it's just so consumptive and so many different
Hmm.
layers of it. But I also won't know many other books that way either, to be used against for judgment and for their only argument to say, well, they didn't know. The dismissive nature of it is abusive. It
Yeah.
denies who you
Yeah.
are, it denies your path, it denies what you think. All of that is just complete dismissal of
Yes.
who you are, not only what you do, but of who you are, and it's just bullshit.
Yeah, and it's why I don't like, depending on the feed or the comments and whatever, I don't always engage because I'm like, first of all, you don't care about me. You don't know who I am. You don't, you know, and you
Right.
don't care to care, right? But and to be fair, I don't care about them either. So like
Right.
feelings mutual. But I in terms of my personal life, the responses that many of them have is so dismissive and it's just completely
Yeah.
there's no nuance to the conversation, there's
Right.
no depth to the conversation, you're just immediately shut down. You know, it's like the meme that's like the outlet that connects to itself, and it's like when Christians say because
Exactly.
the Bible says so or whatever, you
Right.
know. It's like, yeah, exactly. So yeah, I don't tend to engage too much if I feel like the answer I'm getting is super dismissive. It's like that in and of itself is so triggering to me.
Well, you know, I mean, I got a lot of direct messages because I posted what this guy had done, because I was truly
Mhm.
laughing. I mean, it was
Mhm.
it was just so patriarchal, and I just called him out left and right. And I got a
Mhm.
lot of DMs saying, "Oh my God, are you okay? I'm so sorry." Oh, my fire just went out.
Your
Um,
fire went out.
my
Oh
fire went out.
no.
Oh, here we go. Um, but
crucial to
It
this
was,
ambiance.
I know. It was truly comical to me. 10 years ago, I would have been shaking. I would have been really upset. And I don't know this person. It was on a mutual friend's page. And the whole post was vile about things that people were saying about Pope Francis. So
Ugh.
he got on me because I said the word fuck, and just went crazy. I'm a demon. And stuff like that, just, it makes me laugh. It was pure entertainment today.
Yeah.
What actually upset me, in fact, one of my friends was involved in, and a lot of my friends have actually seen the thread now, but one of my friends was involved in it. He said that we were feeding each other. We were demons feeding each other. But she sent me a screenshot after he blocked me that this woman came on and said, I went through her thread, and she is evil and she hates men. And I today it was, I was pissing off MAGA and everything. Another comment was, your bio smells like fish, which will make me
Oh,
laugh
I
to the
saw
day I
that.
fucking die.
Like, what?
But to
I
have
was
a
like,
woman,
excuse me?
yeah, but it is like the funniest thing ever. But to have a woman come on, and that bothered me more than anything of the men said.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was like, how, I'm evil and I hate men because I attack the patriarchy. I don't attack men. I attack the
Yeah.
patriarchy.
But people
I
don't know
attack,
the difference.
I
Many
know,
do
and
not know the
that's
difference.
so sad.
Yeah.
That's what keeps it alive. That's what keeps it
Yep.
spiraling. That's what keeps it in power. I wasn't mad that she said this about me. I was mad that that was her reaction to something. And I was quoting Jesus, which just even makes it funnier. So,
Right. Right.
the shame that is involved in us no longer believing their bullshit, us no longer buying into their patriarchal, shame-driven things that they push out, they have nothing to do but dismiss us.
Yes. 100%. Yeah. I know. Just all of the things. I do say, like, sometimes when people will comment things about, like, oh, they'll like quote scripture, or they'll say some, oh, well, something you've heard in church a million times,
Right.
right? Like, I'll be like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. I never thought of that. Thank you. I should have just read the Bible. Or Jesus is God. Oh my God, thank you so much. I never even considered that.
Right.
And I
Right.
just let them keep going. Yeah, thank you. Oh my God.
Right.
Oh
I'm such a
man.
silly woman.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Just let them go. Yeah, I know. It's
Okay, so I wanna
infuriating,
get to
but
the scandalous shit.
okay.
What's this with the rich people and pop stars and all of that? I live in Hollywood now. Well, I live in
Amazing.
LA. I live in North Hollywood, near Burbank, but, um, I have my own story, so I can only imagine what yours are. So do tell. Can you give us, without spoiling the book, because my
Yes.
listeners are gonna watch, you're gonna definitely buy the book, but you gotta give us some spoilers here.
So I'll do some sprinkles.
Okay.
So yeah, the rich people part of the story. Okay, I won't give away like the initial rich people and like how I got, yeah, how I even like moved to New York City. But I ended up living with rich people, like basically like this in this building that was like a doorman building. We lived in the penthouse. It was one of those like miracle situations. And so not only was like did I have the culture shock of just living in New York City, now I have the culture shock of like not outing myself as a country bumpkin around all these fucking millionaires. And like I'm the only one in the building who's like under 35 but over 8, like, and so I definitely was a fish out of holy water. But yeah, so that was an acclamation. But then on top of that, my first job in New York, I was a personal assistant to this crazy family. And again, you'll just have to read it to like hear all of the stories. But when I got the job, I thought, oh my gosh, this is so perfect. I like got it through a friend of a friend. And so I thought for sure, like, this was just, again, like God showering me with the blessings. The penthouse was a blessing, and now this is a blessing. And, but it turned out to be a living nightmare. And it was so weird. Like I talk about this, like, okay, here's the thing about rich people. And backtrack. Then I went on to, I didn't do personal assisting really anymore after that, but I started nannying. And then there's a spectrum in New York of wealthy people. Like, there's like normal wealthy, which is probably like their parents were rich. And so they probably have a trust fund, but like, maybe make $1 million a year, but like, that's not crazy money in New York City. So their
No,
kids
not at all.
probably go to private school, but they're not like, because of the relativity of wealth, they aren't assholes.
Yeah.
Basically, right?
Right.
And then you have other people who are wealthy through the arts or something like that, right?
Mhm.
Or they have like a long line of family that are like super wealthy, but like advocates and like on
Yeah.
every single board and whatever. So I definitely can't say that every wealthy family I've worked for are crazy. However, they do live on a different planet. And so they, like, I'll never forget one of my like normal families. I'm like walking the little girl home, and her mom asks me to stop at Dwayne Reed to pick up some shredded cheese because she wants to make the kids quesadillas that night. And the little girl just wanted to get home, right? She's like, I just want to go home. And I was like, well, your mom told me we have to stop for this, whatever. And she's like, I don't even like cheese unless it's aged Gouda. And I was like, oh my God. Like, I didn't even eat anything except Kraft singles until I moved to New York, like things like that. Or these kids eat like dosas and sushi. And I'm like, I didn't even know what like a mango lassi was until I moved to New York City. I don't even think I ate avocado. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
And then these kids like, so, or they don't, a lot of wealthy kids don't have life skills because nothing in their life is hard. Like if they're struggling in a class, oh, we'll get you a tutor. Done and done. They don't have to figure out anything on their own. And so then they go to like college, and many of them spiral because now unless they are part of like a big wealth like net where they can pretty much buy themselves out of any PR situation. A lot of them will like fail out of their colleges because they are, for the first time, truly responsible for themselves. And so I saw like kids who were like in their 20s with like tutors, and I'm like, really? You really? Or like they couldn't even, their parents would like make excuses for them that they weren't like getting to class on time. I'm like, he's 19. He has to go to class. Like, things like that.
Yeah.
So, and I just couldn't understand that because here I am as a 23-year-old that I know they're looking down on me, right? Because I'm the help.
Right.
But I have busted my ass since I was 14. I've had a job. I have been managing money since I was 15, right? Like I had to pay for my car, I had to pay for my gas, I had to pay for my insurance, I had to pay if I wanted a cell phone, I had to pay for it. Like, and meanwhile, these kids who are like have all the resources in the world and they're just fucking squandering it. And even the less severe version of that, where like the kids are responsible, they're sweet, they're whatever, they still just truly have no idea how the rest of the world is living, and even if they're like more down to earth, it's like, yeah, but like you've still seen Hamilton like 12 times and like, so I just, meanwhile, my nieces and nephews like have gone to Hamilton once in the Midwest and they're thrilled, so that's where, or like, I don't know, this last family I worked for, I can't say much because I do sign NDAs, right? But it got hard day to day to, well, not even just that family, but like families in general. It got hard to like sympathize with them because I'm like, you have a full-time housekeeper, you have a chef, you have a driver, you have a stylist,
what are you bitching about?
You don't have a job. Like, it just
I
got
think
really annoying.
right. I think the biggest problem with everything you're saying, I mean, we all want that lifestyle, right? We all want to be,
I don't
part
know.
of
I
that.
don't think I do. I think it makes people actually insane.
Well,
Like
and
seeing
that
it
was
up
my
close.
point.
Yeah.
It's like my ex fiance, at one point I asked him, "Who were you at 8 years old?"
Mm,
I wanted to see where is your trauma? Where is, and it turned out there was no trauma, and so therefore there was no character. And
mhm.
so I
Yeah.
it was nothing. It was, well, my mom wiped my ass until I was 6 was his trauma. And I look upon it now and go, this is why you have no character. So,
Mm,
while we can say, man, we had it tough. Again, same thing. I was working at 15, all of those things, but it made me who I am to actually empathize with others, to say,
yes.
those types of things, to
Yeah.
know the pain that is incurred,
Mhm.
that they are, it's not just rich people. We have MAGA in trailers thinking the same thing. It's an
Yes.
sense of entitlement more than,
Mhm.
the size of the pocketbook.
It is, and I talk about that in the book, like, assholes be assholes, right? Like,
Right.
money just tends to, exacerbate and highlight
Totally.
whatever is
Right.
already there, right? Like, Donald Trump is just like trailer trash, but in the White House,
Right.
and I
With
can say that because
$400 million.
right. I can say trailer trash, I feel like, because like my joke is that my family is equal parts seventh heaven and winter's bone. Like we've got a lot of mess in the lot. And in my school, I think my school was like 75% free and reduced lunch. Like I grew up thinking that my family was doing very well. My dad was a preacher and my mom was a teacher. Like so it's all relative, right?
A friend called
So then
my
you
book
move.
Jerry Springer meets, oh shit, I forgot the artist now. But yeah, same thing. I mean, I lived in Florida for 30 years. I can talk about trailer trash.
Yes.
I have friends
And
who live in mobile homes. They're not trailer trash. It is a
right.
distinct reality it's a mentality,
Yes.
more so than a living or dwelling environment.
Yes. And I
And
think the
Trump is
thing with
trailer trash.
yes, yes. Um, well, I could go on and on. But I think the thing with wealth that I really, in terms of my experiences with it, and then we can also talk about the pop singer, is I I don't know. I just even if you try to be the nicest person, I just have a hard time with like why do you have so much? When you
Right.
see how like when you see how much everyone else, well not everyone else, but like I don't know, your housekeepers, your babysitters, like you know how much you're paying us. So you know how much we make compared to how much you have.
Right.
And you know how much you're paying for your 3-year-old to go to preschool compared to what you pay us.
Right.
So like I'm like, why do you need this much money? And that is why I'm just sort of like unabashedly a Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren supporter because I'm like, I just don't believe people should have this much money. I don't think anything good comes after
Mhm.
having, why do you need more than $100 million? Like, I don't know why you would need that.
Right.
So
I
I don't
mean,
know.
greed has been the root of all evil since the fucking cavemen.
Right.
The fact now, the disparity in this country that has completely grown in the last 60
Mhm.
years because of power, because of religion and God. God wants us to be rich
Mhm.
is just the most vulgar lie
Prosperity.
I've ever. Yeah, the prosperity.
Yeah.
It's just all so gross. And again,
Mhm.
it's the character issue.
Mhm.
We're supposed to be known by our fruit.
Mhm.
And when your fruit is just on the ground rotting while people
Yeah.
starve, yeah, I mean, I don't think, I mean, I would even be as liberal to say as no billionaires. Um,
Yeah.
I
100%.
I like the 100 million limit even more. But the fact that there is so much disparity in our society right now, and so many people are
Mhm.
suffering while others are just literally burning cash, I think is
Yeah.
just the root of evil.
Yeah. To your point about like the fruit rotting, like that was something that was really hard for me in these homes, is seeing how much food they threw away
Yeah.
and like knowing how much money they spent on it,
Yeah.
and then just them, and then not even offering it, not being like, hey, would you like to take this home or not, or like they literally don't even have the mental real estate to think, oh well, we already have food for this week, so we don't really need to buy any more. They don't even know what they have in their cupboard. They don't know what's in their
Mhm.
fridge. They don't, like, to not think about that. Meanwhile, I really think about that. Like, I don't
Yeah.
go grocery shopping until I am completely out of something, because I don't, and I if for some reason something goes bad before I can eat it, I compost it. Like, I am
Yeah.
so aware of this, so it's just it's really bothersome. But it's not all rich people, but
It's not.
it's really
It's
not all
not.
rich people.
It's not. I know, I have, one of my best friends is very wealthy. She
Mhm.
doesn't realize it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
so that's, part of her beauty, but yeah, I mean, she's
Mhm.
always donating, she's always helping other people. Um,
Mhm.
but again, she has no idea how wealthy she is, so that's the
Mhm.
comedy of it all. Okay, pop
Yeah.
star.
Pop
Let's hear
star.
pop star.
So, yeah, so there are like a few famous people in the book, but I don't say anybody's names because
Right,
defamation. I mean, I don't
right.
think I say anything that could get me like sued, but I don't say anyone's real names. But yeah, so pop singer basically was, I mean, when I met him, he wasn't famous. He was singing at, the bitter end in on the Lower East Side. And yeah, I lost my virginity to him. If you want to see how it went down, it's on YouTube. It's all inspired by
What?
real events. Um, and
Not the
yeah,
actual
so
act, but your review of it, I'm sure.
right,
Okay.
yeah, there are some things that I took creative liberties on, but for the most part, like even word for word, how it went down. Um,
Hysterical.
and yeah, and so when I met him, he was just a really good singer, and I didn't even really like him. Like, that's what was weird about it, is I was not interested in him. I was actually interested in his drummer. His drummer actually went on to become the drummer of one of my absolute favorite bands.
Oh,
And
wow.
I didn't know that he was the drummer until I went to go buy tickets for the show, and I saw him, and then I texted him and I was like, oh my God, are you the drummer? Da, 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 da. So then I got to meet the band, which was another amazing, great New York story. But I don't know, the singer was interested in me. And at that point, that was really all it took. It's like, oh,
Well,
do
that
you
we were
like
told
me?
that's all that
Cool.
mattered though, right?
Yes.
They had to pick
Yes.
us.
Yes, exactly. So, and I didn't really think it through, to be honest. Like, it's weird because I always say, like, religious recovery is weird because I'd spent all this time creating these like massive boundaries around even like laying horizontally with my boyfriend. Then all of a sudden I was having like a one night stand with this guy I wasn't even really into on the Lower East Side. And then we didn't talk after that. And I was like, that sounds right. I didn't really want to talk to him. And then so that was another thing that was really confusing to me is you were told like you sleep with someone, you're gonna be emotionally connected to them forever, like
Soul
soul ties, and
tie.
they're gonna have part of you and all of this. And I was like, I would like to never see him again. Like, that is how I felt
Yeah.
about how the whole thing happened. I snuck out of his apartment without saying goodbye. I just left like a lady in the night, and then I ate French fries and Diet Coke at like 6 in the morning, and swallowed my Plan B, and wondered how the fuck did I get here? I have a purity ring on, like, and that was the
You should have
catalyst.
left it on his bedstand. That would have been
Right?
so poetic.
And then because he did ask about my ring. He was like, "Are you married?" And I was like, I'm in your bed. Did you take me home thinking I was married? And he was like, oh, well, it's none of my business. I was like, except you're asking me right now. So
Right.
obviously it is. And then, yeah, he went on to win Grammys.
Mm.
And I remember I was like, I remember one day I was trying on swimsuits in H&M, and I like heard this song and I was like, oh, that is 100% him. And then I like Shazammed it and it was, and I'm like, you know, with my girlfriends right next to me, and I was like, I totally lost my virginity to this guy. Best part about it
And
is that
then it'll never go away.
yes, he will forever. The best part about it is he is not popular. He got the Grammys because he's a songwriter.
Mm,
And then he became famous. Like his songs that he got famous for are in a partnership with a really prominent DJ. And
mm,
so people know the DJ, but unless it's like Selena Gomez, who's like the vocals on the track,
right,
they don't know who's singing for the guy. So
right.
here, this pop star is, I mean, performing for millions of people across the globe, but no one really knows who he is. But he's got like hundreds of thousands of followers, right? And
That's
but
funny.
if I said his name, which I won't, not on air, but if I said his name, you'd be like, yeah, I have no idea who that is. But you've probably heard his songs.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. I see stars like all the time around
Yeah.
LA.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, okay.
Yeah. I know. Hey
I
there.
don't care. I don't know. I don't, musicians do have a thing. I do have a thing for musicians. My ex-husband
Mhm.
was a drummer also. So
Yes.
that's one of the things. Again, it's probably the evangelical love of music and the praise and worship and
Yeah.
that goes with it.
Yes.
But yeah. Okay, so we are at the top of the hour. Is there anything
Okay.
else you want to
Oh,
throw at us?
I don't know. I mean, I definitely think buy the book. It's and also follow me on Substack because I'm releasing all of my blogs there. But all of my blogs do currently live on my website. But yes, thank you. But new and improved versions of the blogs are coming out on the subs are out and continuing to come out on the Substack. But the book is really, I gotta say, it's pretty good. I am a very good writer. And I like to think I'm a strong storyteller. And even people who are like not readers have said they have read it really quickly. Like it's an easy read. It's a good beach read. So if you've got some like vacations coming up,
Summer's coming
and
up.
then yeah, and yeah, and I mean, I just have like so many. If you want to hear other interviews or whatever that I've had about different parts of my journey on my news page on my website, all of my podcasts or yeah, all of my interviews are listed there.
Oh, I'm so
Yeah, I
envious.
don't
That's been on
know.
my to-do list for like 6 months.
Yeah, I'm sure there are some missing.
Right, right.
But yeah, I was actually in LA. Get this. I was invited out to LA to be on this podcast for this woman, Ellen Fisher. Do you know her name? That
Mm,
name? So Ellen got popular on YouTube and Instagram because she's like vegan earthy mom vibes and like, like lives off the land in Hawaii and homeschools her kids. Um, but she's actually like her podcast is really good because she hosts debates from like opposing sides and which
nice.
is great because there are not or they're not debates but they're opposing conversations,
Right.
right? And they're actually great because, my joke is that like I love my echo chamber. I don't actually want to leave it. So
Right.
it's good for me to hear those conversations in a
Yeah.
container that is respectful and civil, whatever. So anyway, the woman who used to run God is Gray, Brenda Davies,
Mm.
suggested me for Ellen's conversation about purity culture. So I flew out to LA to do this conversation with her in person about like I was obviously anti purity culture, but she was
Right.
pro purity culture. And so that was the last time I was in LA was
How
ironically
fun.
to talk about purity culture.
How fun.
Yeah.
Well, next time you're here, you gotta hit me up and we'll go have
I
drinks.
will. Yes, absolutely. We'd have a blast and we can talk about curly hair things.
There you go. But I'm seeing mine drop as we go. Any final words that you'd like to leave the audience with?
I think if you're going through deconstruction, I think of deconstruction as like the stages of grief.
Yeah.
And there's like in the process and then post process. There's no right way to do
Mhm.
it. So like don't get caught up in the dogma of it all of the dogma of deconstruction because I feel like that's a thing now.
Right.
There's so many like deconstruction accounts that are telling you like what you need to align with politically and on any topic. And if you deviate at all, then all of a sudden, like, you're ousted from that world.
Yeah,
I
it's
think,
still the same shit.
yeah, it is. It
Yeah.
absolutely is. So just honor your journey and trust that, like, the journey you're on is for the sake of your individuality. And then the last thing I will say is that I have been so overwhelmed with all of the reporting on the Pope. And I just, like, I was listening to the New York Times podcast on him today. Did you listen to that?
No.
No. And I'm listening and I'm like, well, okay, so literally all of the, like, super religious people were critical of him
Hated
because
him.
because he was like, I don't need your nonsense. This is
Right.
unimportant. I'm gonna take the bus. Like,
Right.
and they were all like, throwing stones, whatever, like, metaphorically. And I'm like, log in your eyes, motherfuckers. Like, how do you not
Mhm.
see that this is literally the story of Jesus and the Pharisees? What
Right.
Bible are you reading? And so I can't understand that. I mean, I can, because they can explain it away, but I actually, like, cognitively, you have to dismiss so much to not see that.
That
And
is the
it's,
whole point of the post where I was called a demon today. That's all I kept saying was that, this is Jesus. And he's like, you
yeah,
need to follow the laws. And I'm like, you're a Pharisee. And the more he
yeah.
spoke, the more he became like, wow, this is the best adjective there is for you. It breaks my brain. It truly breaks my brain.
And I went to church on Easter. I don't go to church typically, but there's this one church in New York that I'm like, if I did go to church, this is a church I'd go to. And so I go to it on special occasions. And I'm just sobbing because it was the first time, I'm ashamed to say this, but it was the first time I connected to Jesus as just this, like, do-gooder in the world. Like,
Yeah.
he was genuinely making the world a better place by disrupting,
Right.
like, hierarchy of power, by manipulation, abuse, calling it all out, and, like, again, not really concerning himself with the dogma of it all, but, like, just
Right.
doing good in the world. And the man, who is nothing but pure goodness, he didn't do anything wrong. I mean, the worst thing he did, reported, right, is he flipped the tables. That is the worst
I
harmful
actually,
thing he did.
I learned something today from one of
Mhm,
my trans friends
mhm,
that I go back to no human is perfect, and we should
mhm,
never elevate any human to any type of level but I love the
mhm,
Pope too. But
mhm,
she actually posted that he said that trans people were atomic. And I was like,
mm.
bullshit, there's no way. And I
Wait,
looked
the
it up and
Pope
it was
said that?
true. Yeah, he actually
Mm,
said that trans people and gender benders were equivalent to nuclear bombs being set off on society.
oh,
So
I did not know that.
right? So I've been
Right.
in the same place you are today, but
Yeah,
again, it's just a reminder that no human is perfect. We are all flawed,
not even the Pope,
not even the
not even
Pope.
Jesus.
I applaud Francis for what he's done. He did
Mhm,
more than
mhm,
anybody else. But
mhm.
yeah, to say that
Still.
about trans people,
Yeah, but, like, with Jesus, the fact that, because we don't know what all he did outside of what is reported about him, right? But the fact that he died such a brutal death, with, like, just because people didn't like that he was trying to
yeah,
disrupt. And
love,
I guess just, yeah, I guess just, like, where we are in history right now with the Trump administration just silencing and bulldozing, it's scary. And I was like, I just connected to the fact that, like, God, he died a brutal death for doing nothing but trying to better the world.
love can
And
be
yeah,
deadly. To push love instead of power.
mhm,
It's the same thing with the witches. It's the same thing with
yeah,
that I got today. I mean, literally, that's what
mhm,
I was saying was, no, you're supposed to love, and it's you, demon, which just
yeah,
cracks me up.
uh,
But that is consistent. My worry at this point is that we've been doing this for 6,000 fucking years and we haven't evolved. I mean,
n-
we are in 32 AD right now, with people saying
Yeah.
that empathy is a sin. So we
I
need to
know.
continue flipping tables and being out there. And I thank you so much for your words
Mhm.
and your wisdom and being on the show. Finally, we finally got to meet.
Yes, we
This
did
thrills me.
it.
Great
Yes.
show. Okay, I'm going to send you backstage and
Okay.
close it. Stay. I
All
want to
right.
talk to you about some stuff. Okay. Now, this is where I struggle each week because I have to manage this new program that I don't know what I'm doing with. Okay. I'll see you in the back. See, now I can't find my mouse. Oh, I need an engineer. Okay, what another great show. Thank you all so much for watching. And I want to give another shout out to my producer, Patrick Young, for the work that he has done for the show and his continued support. Don't forget to check out my book and the follow-up course and all that good stuff. We are going to make sure that we create some real change through healing, community, and knowledge. If you like the show, share it and subscribe. Thanks again for watching and have a wonderful week. As always, walk in love. Mwah! See you next week.